Have you ever felt a presence alongside you, even when you are entirely alone? It's not a ghost, but a shadow cast by your own consciousness, your silent companion always with you. We often turn away from it, distracted by the world, but it remains unwavering. You're not broken. What you're feeling is part of the transformation. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll see how that emptiness can be turned into something powerful. On the path of inner work, motivation often fades. You start with purpose, ready to confront your truths. But as you go deeper, energy wanes and doubt creeps in. It feels like failure, but this emptiness is a sign the process is working. The old structures dissolve, leaving a silence after the fall, a necessary collapse before something new can be built. To navigate this difficult internal landscape, we need a guide. We need a map. That map was given to us by the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. Jung was a man who dared to explore the deepest and often darkest territories of the human psyche. He understood that the mind was not just a collection of rational thoughts and observable behaviors. He knew that beneath the surface of our conscious awareness lay a vast and powerful unconscious realm, a world of symbols, archetypes, and hidden potentials. He devoted his life to charting this inner world, providing us with a language to understand our own complexities. At the very heart of Jung's psychology is the concept of the shadow. He did not invent the idea, but he gave it a name and a profound psychological meaning. For Jung, the shadow is the other side of our ego. It is the repository for all the aspects of our personality that our conscious mind has rejected or repressed. These are not necessarily evil or negative things. The shadow can contain immense creativity, vitality, and strength. It might hold our assertiveness, our passion, or our vulnerability. We hide these parts away simply because they did not fit with the image of ourselves we were taught to present to the world. Facing your shadow, in Jungian terms, is the work of a lifetime. He called this process individuation. It is the journey of becoming an individual, meaning an undivided whole person. This involves a courageous and honest integration of the shadow. It requires us to withdraw our projections from others, to stop seeing our own unowned darkness in the people around us, and to recognize it within ourselves. It is a process of reclaiming the lost and forgotten parts of our own soul. It is about making the darkness conscious, not to be consumed by it, but to be completed by it. Jung's work is not a form of simple, feel-good self-help. It is a deep and often challenging psychological exploration. It does not offer easy answers or quick fixes. Instead, it offers something far more valuable, a framework for understanding the immense struggle and the profound beauty of the human condition. It explains why the journey towards wholeness must take us through periods of darkness and disillusionment. It assures us that the feeling of being lost, of having no motivation, is not an end point. It is a crucial, unavoidable stage on the path to a more authentic and integrated self. We stand at a critical juncture. We've faced our shadow, lost old motivation, and entered a barren inner landscape. But this emptiness is not the end. It's a crucible for transformation. From this void, a more authentic purpose can emerge, rooted in your true self, not a mask. This is Jung's promise, to become whole, not fragmented. The journey begins here. To understand our journey, we must meet our shadow self. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unconscious part of our personality, born from us, made of the same substance as our conscious ego. It is the hidden cellar of our psyche, holding all we repress: anger, envy, creativity, and joy. Facing the shadow means descending into that darkness, not to destroy, but to understand and reclaim our wholeness. The shadow isn't something we're born with. It's built over time. As children, we express everything freely, but soon learn which parts of us are acceptable. Society, parents, and teachers reward some behaviors and punish others, shaping us to fit in. The traits we hide don't disappear. They're pushed into our unconscious, forming the shadow. To belong, we adapt, performing a version of ourselves that's safe for the world. Our shadow is made of the pieces we've exiled: anger, creativity, vulnerability, anything unwelcome. The persona is the mask we show. The shadow is everything it hides. Facing the shadow means reclaiming the parts we sacrifice to fit in. It's an act of self-compassion, telling those lost parts they're welcome home. The shadow is not born of malice, but of our need to survive in a world that couldn't accept all of us. To understand the shadow, we must see its relationship with the persona, the mask we show the world. The persona helps us function in society, but it's only a fragment of who we are. Problems arise when we believe we are only the mask, losing touch with our true selves. The more perfect our persona, the bigger and darker our shadow becomes. Repressed traits gather strength in the unconscious, creating tension. The shadow leaks out in slips, moods, or harsh judgments of others. Facing the shadow means admitting we are more than our mask, full of contradictions. Integration is accepting both our light and dark sides. Wholeness comes from embracing all of who we are, not just the parts we show. When you finally face your shadow, all those buried feelings surface: fear, guilt, shame. It's powerful, but it can also feel overwhelming and isolating. That's where talking to someone can help. If you've been carrying this alone, online therapy is a way to sort through it, to find clarity and grounding again. You can talk to a licensed therapist from anywhere, even just by messaging. Use the link in the description and the code therapy20 for 20% off. It might be the lifeline you need while you go through this work. The shadow isn't just evil, it's simply unconscious. It holds both our darkest impulses and our hidden strengths. We're taught to suppress the darkness, but the shadow also contains creativity, vitality, and potential. For example, sensitivity or ambition, once rejected, may live in the shadow as untapped gifts. The shadow's energy is neutral. Like a wild river, it can be destructive or life-giving. Shadow work is about channeling this energy constructively, not eliminating it. Facing the shadow moves us beyond good and bad toward wholeness. Our roots must reach into darkness for us to grow. The shadow is the source of both our flaws and our greatest strengths. Facing your shadow is an act of destruction, shattering the stories you've told yourself. We build our identity on comforting narratives, but shadow work cracks them open. You discover anger beneath calm, selfishness beneath generosity, fear beneath control. The old self collapses, leaving you in confusion and loss of motivation. The ambitions and discipline that once drove you were tied to the persona you're now dismantling. It feels like losing everything, but it's really the end of illusion. Our culture fears falling apart, but disintegration is necessary for real growth. This is not the end, but the first step towards something authentic. The old self must die for a truer self to be born. Rebirth begins in the rubble of what you thought you were. If these ideas are making you stop and think, there's more like this waiting for you here. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next piece of the puzzle. Our motivation is often borrowed from the persona, the mask we wear for approval. We chase success, perfection, and acceptance to earn applause, not for ourselves. Shadow work unplugs us from this external power source, revealing the mask's emptiness. Old goals lose meaning, and a motivation vacuum sets in. You may feel apathetic or lost, as if in a deep silence. This isn't failure, but a psychological reset. Without the mask, you must ask, who am I really? What truly moves me? The answer may be silence at first. Authentic motivation takes time to emerge. The old drive was loud and anxious. The new one will be quiet and steady. To hear it, you must endure the silence left when the applause fades. What's the hardest part for you when you try to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding? I'd love to hear what shadow work feels like for you in the comments. Another profound reason for the collapse of motivation is the immense mental strain of cognitive dissonance. This is the psychological discomfort we experience when we hold two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time. Before shadow work, our inner world, while perhaps based on illusion, was at least consistent. We believed we were a good person, and we acted in ways that reinforced this belief while conveniently ignoring any evidence to the contrary. Our conscious mind maintained a coherent, if incomplete, narrative. It was a state of blissful ignorance, where the ego remained the undisputed king of its own small, well-lit castle. Shadow work shatters this fragile peace. It forces you to hold two opposing truths in your mind simultaneously. I am a compassionate person must now coexist with the newly discovered knowledge. I also have a capacity for cruelty. I am a brave individual must now share mental space with I am often driven by profound fear. This creates a deep and unsettling schism in the psyche. The mind, which craves consistency and order, is thrown into a state of chaos. It is like trying to listen to two completely different pieces of music being played at full volume at the same time. The resulting noise is jarring, confusing, and utterly exhausting. This internal conflict consumes a tremendous amount of psychic energy. Your mind is constantly trying to reconcile the irreconcilable, to make sense of a self that now seems to be a bundle of contradictions. This internal battle leaves very little energy for anything else. Motivation for external tasks plummets because all your resources are being diverted to the war raging within. It is a state of constant, low-grade mental friction. Simple decisions become difficult. Clear thoughts become clouded. The world, which once seemed relatively straightforward, now appears impossibly complex, because you are seeing it through the lens of your own newly discovered complexity. This feeling of being divided, of being at war with yourself, is a hallmark of the integration process. You are no longer one thing, but many. You're in the liminal space between a simple, false unity and a complex, true wholeness. The exhaustion you feel is the mental fatigue of holding this immense paradox. The loss of motivation is a natural consequence of your mind's desperate attempt to manage the cognitive dissonance. It is a sign that you are no longer living in a simple black and white world, but are beginning to grapple with the messy, contradictory and beautiful grey tones of your true and total self. For our whole lives, a part of our mind has acted as a tireless watchman, guarding the gates of our consciousness and holding back the shadow within. When we finally lower these shields, exhaustion floods in, not because we are weak, but because we are finally letting go. Honor this weariness. It is a sign of healing and the first step toward true integration. The emptiness you feel is not a problem to be solved, but a space to be inhabited. Our world fears the void, rushing to fill it with noise and activity. But in the psyche's wisdom, emptiness is pure potential, fertile ground for new life. This silence is not the end, but the beginning. Trust the process. You are gathering strength, preparing for a rebirth that is truly your own. After the initial shock, a dull ache settles in, a thick grey fog that mutes the vibrant colours of life. You feel detached, as if watching your own life from behind glass. This numbness is your mind's way of protecting itself, turning down the volume on all emotions. Navigating this fog requires patience and quiet observation. Trust that in time, the colours will return as the fog gently lifts. For some, repressed emotions create a grey fog of numbness. For others, a sudden, overwhelming flood. When the dams of repression break, emotions can erupt with the force of a tidal wave. These feelings may seem raw and disproportionate, rooted in the past. The challenge is to contain them, letting them move through you without being consumed. In time, the storm will pass, leaving a clearer, more fertile inner ground. One of the most painful aspects of the emotional fallout is a profound sense of isolation. This journey into the shadow is, by its very nature, a solitary one. No one can descend into your personal underworld for you. No one can face your demons on your behalf. While guides and companions can offer maps and encouragement from the surface, you must ultimately walk the dark corridors alone. This creates a psychological distance between you and the people around you who are not engaged in such a process. Their concerns, their conversations, and their entire way of being can suddenly feel alien and superficial. You find yourself sitting with friends or family, listening to them discuss everyday matters, work promotions, television shows, holiday plans, and you feel a chasm opening up between you. Your own inner world is a turbulent landscape of archetypal struggle, psychological death, and emotional chaos. Their world, by comparison, seems so simple, so untroubled, so blissfully unaware. This is not a judgment on them, but a simple observation of the different realities you now inhabit. It becomes difficult to relate, to find common ground. The small talk that once bonded you now feels like an impossible effort, a language you have forgotten how to speak. This feeling of alienation can lead to a retreat from social life. You may find yourself withdrawing not out of anger or dislike, but out of a simple lack of energy and a sense of being fundamentally misunderstood. How can you explain that you are grieving the death of a false self? How can you articulate the exhaustion that comes from integrating a lifetime of repressed anger? The language of the conscious everyday world is inadequate for describing the realities of the soul's journey. This leads to a quiet, lonely quarantine where you feel like a visitor from another planet, observing human life from a distance. This isolation, while painful, serves a purpose. It forces you to rely on your own inner resources. It compels you to find your own center, your own source of validation, rather than seeking it from the outside world. It is in this solitude that you forge a new and unbreakable relationship with your true self. You learn to be your own companion in the darkness. While the loneliness is real, it is also a crucible for self-reliance and inner strength. You're learning that you can survive even when you feel completely and utterly alone. This realization, once it dawns, becomes a bedrock of resilience that will support you for the rest of your life. Shadow work and clinical depression can feel nearly identical. Both bring darkness, fatigue, and a sense of being lost. The difference is subtle. Shadow work may hold a thread of meaning, while depression often feels meaningless. If the darkness becomes overwhelming, seeking help is an act of courage, not failure. Sometimes the bravest thing is to accept a hand reaching out to guide you back toward the light. Finally, one of the most subtle but heavy pieces of emotional fallout is the burden of knowing. Once you have faced your shadow, you cannot unsee what you have seen. You can no longer live in the simple black and white world of ignorance. You are now acutely aware of your own capacity for darkness, your own complexities and your own contradictions. You see the shadow not just in yourself, but in everyone around you. You see the intricate games of persona and projection playing out in your family, your workplace, and the world at large. This new sight is a form of wisdom, but it can also feel like a heavy weight to carry. This newfound awareness can make it difficult to tolerate superficiality. You see the hidden motives behind people's kindness, the fear behind their bravado, the pain behind their anger. This does not necessarily make you cynical, but it does make you sober. The innocent charm of the world can seem to fade, replaced by a more complex and sometimes tragic understanding of human nature. You carry the knowledge that everyone, no matter how put together they seem, is fighting a great internal battle. This can evoke deep compassion, but it can also be exhausting as you feel the unspoken pain of the world more acutely. This weight of knowing changes your relationship with yourself. You can no longer easily let yourself off the hook. You are now accountable for your shadow. When you feel a surge of irrational anger, you can no longer simply blame the other person. You have a responsibility to look inward and ask, what part of my shadow is this activating? This constant self-reflection, while essential for growth, requires significant mental and emotional energy. It means you can never fully rest in the comfort of unconsciousness again. You have accepted the burden of consciousness, and it is a load you must carry for the rest of your life. This burden, however, is also a gift. It is the price of admission to a more authentic and meaningful existence. While the world may lose some of its simple charm, it gains an incredible depth and richness. Your relationships become more honest, your choices more conscious, and your compassion more genuine. The weight of knowing is what forges you into a person of substance and integrity. It is heavy, yes, but it is the kind of weight that anchors you, that keeps you grounded in the truth. It is the emotional fallout that over time solidifies into the very foundation of a new and more whole self. The first step in regaining your energy is to stop trying to regain it. The emptiness you feel is not a problem to fix, but a space to honor. Resist the urge to fill the void. Allow yourself to rest without guilt. This sacred stillness is an act of trust, a gentle rebellion against a world demanding constant motion. In this quiet, you create a sanctuary for your own rebirth. In stillness, something gentle stirs, a whisper from deep within. This is not the loud wanting of the ego, but a quiet, authentic desire. It may appear as a flicker of curiosity, a sudden urge to create, or a simple feeling of peace. These are the first shoots of new motivation. By honoring these small impulses, you rebuild trust with your inner self. Patiently tending these sparks, you gather the kindling for a purpose that is truly your own. The journey from emptiness to wholeness is what Carl Jung called individuation. a lifelong process of becoming a whole, undivided self. It means moving beyond the persona, integrating the shadow and embracing all parts of yourself. Wholeness is not perfection, but holding the tension of opposites within you. The emptiness you feel is not a detour, but the path itself, clearing the ground for a new, integrated self to emerge. As the fog of emptiness lifts and authentic desires become clearer, the time for gentle, conscious action arrives. This is not a return to old striving, but a new kind of doing, born from inner alignment. Start small, rebuild your life with intention, one brick at a time. You are building a modest, sturdy cottage that is truly your own. Each small, conscious action rebuilds your sense of agency and competence. Over time, these steps create momentum and your energy returns organically from the inside out. What ultimately emerges from the ashes of your old self is not just a renewed sense of energy, but, the quiet dawn of a true purpose. This purpose is often, honestly, very different from what the ego might have imagined. It's rarely about fame, wealth, or grand accomplishment in the eyes of the world. Instead, it is about living in alignment with the truth of your whole being. It's the simple, profound purpose of expressing your unique, individuated self in the world. For one person, this might mean creating art. For another, it might mean cultivating a garden, raising a family with consciousness, bringing a new integrity to their work. This true purpose is not a destination you arrive at, but a path you walk. It's a continuous process of listening to the inner self and responding with conscious action. It's marked by a sense of meaning that isn't dependent on external results. You do what you do because it feels true, because it's an expression of your soul. This is the ultimate freedom. You're no longer motivated by fear or by a need for approval or by the hungry ghosts of the persona. You're moved by a deep internal sense of rightness. This creates a powerful, unwavering sense of direction, even in the face of life's challenges. The energy that comes with this way of living is calm and enduring, because you're no longer wasting psychic resources on internal conflict, on suppressing the shadow and upholding a facade. All of that energy becomes available for living. You may find you have more vitality than ever before, but it's a steady, slow-burning fire. Not an explosive and quickly exhausted firework. There is a sense of peace even in effort, a sense of joy even in struggle, because your actions are aligned with your deepest nature. You're no longer pushing the river, you're flowing with it. This is the final reward for having dared to face your shadow. You regain not just your motivation, but a life of substance and meaning. You have walked through the darkness and have not been destroyed by it. You have integrated it. Like a kintsugi bowl, you are more beautiful and more valuable, not in spite of your cracks, but because of them. Your purpose is simply to be who you are, in all your flawed, complex and magnificent wholeness. And the energy that radiates from that authentic state is the most powerful and sustainable force in the universe. It is the quiet, luminous glow of an integrated soul. We have traveled together into the shadowed valleys of the psyche, only to find emptiness where old structures once stood. This void is not an ending, but the crucible of transformation. Like the phoenix, we must be reduced to ashes before we can rise renewed. If you find yourself hollow and exhausted, take heart. This is the sacred ground of rebirth. Wait with patience, for new life will inevitably emerge from the ashes. Emerging from this transformative process, you are given a new instrument, an internal compass. No longer guided by external maps or others' expectations, you now follow the compass of your soul. It speaks in quiet nudges, guiding you toward what feels true and right. When you trust this compass, life becomes an effortless expression of your deepest nature. It always points you toward greater wholeness and a life that truly reflects who you are. The journey to wholeness is not a single event, but a lifelong path. The shadow remains a constant companion, not to be eliminated but embraced. Each descent is an initiation, a rite of passage into deeper authenticity. Walk this unending path with courage and compassion, carrying the lessons of darkness into the light, dancing with your shadow on the sacred journey home. If this video hit something deep for you, give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more ideas like this. And remember, if you're ready to talk to someone as you work through these heavy truths, The online therapy link is in the description, and you can use the code THERAPY20 for 20% off.